if you're going to come to Nashville as an original artist, this is not the place for you.
Say that again.
Okay, so if you're coming to Nashville to do your original material,
okay,
Broadway is not the place for you to come.
This is Successfully Unsigned, professional music advice from unprofessionals. Today we have a really great interview for you, live from MTSU's Studio C with artist Mike Ponder. He just recently got signed to a label and wants to impart a little bit of his wisdom on how he went from being an unsigned artist to being signed. This conversation today covers a ton of different topics, including what it's like to put his experiences as a veteran into his songwriting, what it's like being signed as an older artist in Nashville, and advice that he has for younger artists coming up, how he went from being purely in a cover band doing 300 shows a year to signing a record deal for his original music, what the Nashville music scene is really like in places like Broadway versus, say, the Listening Room or other local venues. He talks a good bit about how the music industry used to be when he first started and how much it's changed, such as how getting gigs might have changed or how creating demos for your band has changed over the years. And he imparts a little bit of wisdom on how those changes make things easier and how you can take advantage of new niceties that are in the music industry to make your career better. And lastly, we talked extensively about how being a veteran and being involved in veteran programs has changed his career immensely. Programs such as Operation Encore and Warriors Song, Warriors Wellbeing Program, Camp Southern Ground, and finally Wish for Our Heroes, which he has just recently become the Nashville Chapter President. As always, if you're enjoying this show, make sure to hit like and subscribe and give us great ratings on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Each interaction is important to us and we love hearing from you. Now enjoy the show. Are you playing that? Alright. Got a little intro track behind this that we'll be having fun listening to. Hello everybody. Welcome back to Successfully Unsigned. Today we are joined by another special guest, Mr. Mike Ponder.
Hi everybody.
Mike, tell us about yourself.
Oh, well, I'm a newly signed artist here in Nashville. I've been traveling and playing for almost 45 years. Up and down the East Coast, and never really came to Nashville, and just started getting into the Nashville scene, and it's just exploded, and just having a good time with it and riding that roller coaster while I can.
45 years. Are you tired yet?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. We'll just tell you a little bit about myself. Mm-hmm. I grew up in the music business.
Okay.
My mother and father, they played for people like the Kendalls and Archie Campbell and some of the old school Grand Ole Opry guys, and kind of grew up with the old school players with Kitty Wells and traveled around on a tour bus. And at the wonderful age of 3, a tour bus is huge. Started playing drums at 6. Started playing on the road at 6.
Wow.
So we used to do shows on the weekends, and it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then at 18, decided to join the Marine Corps. So I signed those wonderful papers and done 4 years in the Marine Corps, and then went from the Marine Corps to the Navy, done 16 years in the Navy.
Quite a bit of a life change, I bet.
Yeah, but being in there, being in the military, you meet a lot of cool musicians. And it's around the world. I stationed in Italy. I met cool musicians. And everywhere I would get stationed, I would start a band. And it was just a lot of fun meeting new people and new places.
And when when I think of the military, the first thing I think of is definitely not bands. I don't think of music outside of maybe like the Army, the Army band or the Navy
Marine Corps band.
The Marine Corps band. I think about the ones that'll play at, say, the White House every year for inaugurations or things like that. But you're talking about a different kind of band, are you not?
Yeah, just put together guys that was stationed there at those command with us, and we'd find gigs out in town and play. And
what would you play?
Oh, Lord, we'd do everything from rock to pop to country to and overseas especially, they love country music overseas.
Really?
Like Japan, Japan's karaoke. George Strait is as huge in Japan as he is in Texas. So just to do stuff like that, and we got a lot of good people just coming up, and a lot of good reviews, and just and this was back. I'm going to date myself a little bit. I'm pre-Google. So we didn't have internet and social media and stuff. So if you had a band and you was doing covers or whatever, you really had to get boots on the street and beg for gigs and try to get your merch out there, and just try to do everything in person.
So, out of curiosity, you talk about starting a new band in every city that you were stationed in. What were some of the names of some of those bands? Do you remember?
Believe it or not, I started Steel Rail Express in '89.
Steel Rail Express?
Steel Rail Express.
Okay.
And I kept it.
Really?
I just had all new musicians.
Okay.
I did fill in and play in New England with a group called Wolf Creek with Todd Deming.
Sure.
He played American League football.
Okay.
Southern boy from West Virginia. We kind of found ourselves in Maine. I was stationed at Brunswick, stationed up in Maine, and we just kind of found ourselves doing that, but I still had Steel Rail Express.
Yeah.
So I just add different musicians everywhere we go. I kept the name. I already had the merch. I already had the designs.
Sure.
So from '89 until this year, which I had to disband Steel Rail Express because being a signed artist, you have to be your name, you have to be your own person, and you have to start your marketing all over again.
So let's talk about that for a second. Steel Rail Express, that was a cover band?
That was a cover band.
Did you play any originals and stuff like that? Or was it just straight covers?
No, didn't.
So how do you think that translated into being a signed artist? How different is that?
Well, doing cover tunes, you just pick what the people want to hear, If you play Brown Eyed Girl 300 times a year, you play Brown Eyed Girl 300 times a year. You play what the people want. You keep your crowds happy, you keep the dance floor full, and you'll get gigs.
Okay.
You stay humble, you stay good to people. I've got musicians today that played with me 20 years ago that I could call up and go, hey, you want a gig today? And they would come in a heartbeat.
Okay.
So...
And you talk about gigs. One of the big things about this podcast that we like to talk about is how do you get those gigs? What was that like for you?
Oh, being the front man, being the artist, being the one who done the managing and did the marketing.
It's a big task.
It's a huge task. Getting into the clubs, then you had to actually go to the clubs, take a demo. So you had to figure out how to make a demo. Then we was using, you could use I'm dating myself again, just use a little 8-track player, set it in your practice room while you was practicing, and that was your demo.
Okay.
You put it on a cassette and roll it in.
Yeah.
And you'd carry your cassettes around.
Sure.
And, you'd use the old double cassette, you'd record the other one, you'd put it in, you'd put all your marketing on it and information, you'd hand it in. Sometimes they'd listen to it. Sometimes you don't know where it went.
Sure.
You have no idea. So you spend a lot of time doing that.
How many cassettes do you think you went through in that period?
Oh, God. Probably.
It's got to be a lot.
Probably, I don't know, probably 250, 300.
Okay.
And that's probably in about a 5-year period.
Okay.
And then things started getting into CDs and everything. So, but yeah, probably 200 to 300 at least. Just to take to clubs. Yeah. And I always kept them in car. So if I went to hear music someplace, I would find out who their booking agent was or who was doing the booking for them, and I'd give them a CD or I'd give them a cassette.
So did you treat that almost like a little business card?
You had to. Yeah. So my cassette was actually my business card.
Sure.
Because it had all the information typed out on it.
Yeah.
How to get in touch with me, how to book it, and it had a list of pricing.
Oh, really?
So they could see the pricing right there. And then it would be like anything over 50 miles was a little extra charge. Anything over 100 miles was a little extra charge. So I was actually doing the Nashville style booking, didn't realize it, but it worked. It was a recipe that worked. I would probably say out of 100% of places I went to, 85 to 90% would call me.
Really?
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier Nashville is where you've just recently moved to. Where were some of these locations beforehand? Like, where were you based out of?
Lord, they was I started out around Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay.
So I done Asheville, Morganton, Hickory, Charlotte, all the way down into Winston-Salem. And then when I got in the military, I kept the same recipe, you know. So we would find little clubs around the bases. We would hit the Moose Lodges. We would hit the Shriners Clubs. And back then, Moose Lodges and the Shriners Clubs was very big into their weekend dances. You know, everybody would show up there in their evening gowns, and they come to dance, boy. I mean, and that'd be anywhere from 50-year-old to 70-year-old, and they would close the club down, you know, and that's the kind of stuff we did.
Okay.
played in Japan, played in Italy, played in Okinawa.
How different is that playing overseas? Like, how different is the crowd, the atmosphere?
Believe it or not, the crowd is not that much different.
Okay.
They appreciate the music better.
Really?
Then, and this would have been early 90s.
How so?
This is when like Brooks and Dunn was huge.
Sure.
Garth Brooks was huge. You know, this is when Shameless album came out, you know.
Okay.
So me being a cover band, of course, I'm doing the Garth, I'm doing the Brooks and Dunn, I'm doing the all of that. Over there, you come here, and yes, you're a cover band, but they want to see that artist. So they'll come and dance, and they'll come and they'll drink, and they'll have a good time, but it's almost like you're just kind of background music.
Okay.
Over there, they will stand in front of the stage, and they won't leave until you're done.
So you're the show.
You are the show.
Huh,
and it's almost like they have a more appreciation for the music.
Okay.
Not saying that we're bad over here, you know, or anything like that, but this,
everybody out there, you're terrible.
Yeah, you know,
be a better audience member.
Bigger support for the music.
Okay.
And I mean, it didn't matter if you was doing punk, metal. You know, Ozzy was huge then. You know, you had all your Kiss was still huge.
Right.
And it's almost like they wanted that interaction with the music.
So, do you now? I don't know where at that point in time those people toured. Do you think part of that might be because, you know, the artists themselves, Brooks and Dunn, Ozzy, whoever, didn't spend as much time there as they would here, or why do you think that is?
Well, I think that they was so big at that point in time that you know, they didn't have time to be more personable. For us as a cover band, we're right here. Right. You know, we would hang out after the show and talk to people. We didn't have to catch a plane and go to the next place. We had that leeway.
How big of an impact do you think staying after the show to talk to people has on your career, and like why?
Because that's how you keep your fans.
Okay.
You know, I don't care how big an artist you get. Those fans put you there. Yeah. Let's remember that fan, and I hear this a lot. Okay. I'm not playing Brown Eyed Girl anymore. I've just played it so much I'm just sick of it. But you know what? That person that just put that $5 tip in that bucket wanted to hear Brown Eyed Girl. Play it. Because that makes that person happy. That person's going to then turn around and go, man, that band was really good. We need to go back and hear them. Okay. And that's how you build your fan base. That's how you stay humble with it. Don't get arrogant and try to do stuff that makes no sense to the people. You're playing to the people. You're an entertainer. Entertain. And if you're personable and you're a good person and you talk to your fan base will follow you, and you will increase your fan base. It's just that much more. So with, you know, these cover songs and things like that, and you recently translating over into being your own signed solo artist, how many cover songs do you play in a set, or do you play cover songs? As of right now, for my traveling show, my touring show, I've got 7 songs out. I've got 3 new ones, one that just released, 2 more that's on the road. So we'll do usually a 75-minute show. Okay. That's what our normal touring is. And we do 80% my stuff, because that's what we're promoting. Of course. And then we mix in the fun stuff that everybody knows and wants to hear. Like what? Well, just like, you know, we still do some Delbert McClinton stuff, like Shaky Ground. We do stuff. You know, we're a country band, but I'll do Bruno Mars all day long. What Bruno Mars song do you play? Well, we do Uptown Funk. We mix it in. We do some mashup stuff and do some Luke Bryant Country Girl Shake It For Me. Okay. And then go into, straight into Superstitious, and then we'll go into Uptown Funk. We got this thing that we do literally 20 minutes and the music doesn't stop. Nice, like a good medley kind of thing. Yeah, we do. I like that medleys, and we keep it fun, because when people come to dance, they want to dance. Sure, they don't want to hear you stand up there and talk. Sure, they want to hear music. So how much do you talk? Like very little. You just keep playing. Very little. We'll keep playing, and with me, I'll bring the band down, and they'll just kind of be playing behind me, and I give credit to everybody on stage. I respect my musicians as much as I do as myself as an artist, because without them, I'm not sounding worth crap out there. Sure. So myself, I'm in more with all the big artist musicians today than I am the artist. and that has kept me very humble.
Okay.
And also, if I need somebody on a tour, I just call them up and I go, hey, and they're like, yeah, we'll go with Mike. He's always treated us good. You know, he pays good. He treats us good. We're not shoved in a trailer, you know, somewhere.
I have a question. Can I ask? So do you have any like fans from back in the day, or like people that followed you back in the day that you have come up to you or said anything to you in more previous shows and be like, hey, I saw you back in the 90s or whatever, still a big fan, or anything like that, or just any...
It's funny you say that. It happened this weekend. Really? There was a young lady from Beaufort, South Carolina. She's seen many of my shows over the last 20, 25 years. And we done our show, and this show was different because now it's my music as an artist. And she says, I am extremely proud of you. You are now doing a show, not just getting up there and playing good music and stuff. You've got a show now, and you've stepped over into that next level, and I am just very proud of you. That happened Friday night, and I was just floored. I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's really cool to do that. Like we done one of my songs for a benefit Thursday night. A friend of mine named Scotty D, we just call him Scotty D, drummer, good drummer, passed away suddenly, 55 years old. And we done a benefit to help his family Thursday in Beaufort, and then done our show Friday night in Beaufort, and then drove back home for a show Saturday. And I was doing Ghost Town, one of my songs, and just me on the guitar. And a friend of mine went live on their Facebook, and next thing we know, we had over 2,000 hits while the song was playing. And I was like, this is surreal, you know, somebody pinched me. That really just didn't happen. And it did. So that means that the fans that are on Facebook and the fans that are on Instagram, they're really starting to follow. And they, you know, fans can be brutal too. They'll tell you, man, I didn't really like your show. You'll get the critics more than you do but when those positive reinforcements happen, man, it's like, it's cool.
Do you have any like funny comments or like things that just like took you so by surprise when somebody said it, like in kind of a not so positive response that stuck with you? Like, they really said that?
Believe it or not, I had somebody look at me one time and says, I come here to listen to country, not Bruno Mars.
Okay.
And I was like, well, good. I appreciate that. You just kind of have those kind of moments, and you just say thank you when you really just want to go, you know, and you just kind of holding back, really saying something. You just got to kind of smile and grit your teeth and go, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So, of course, I've known you here for a number of months now, and I mean, the stuff that I hear you play is country, the stuff you write.
Yep.
And I have a hard time hearing Bruno Mars. Do you, for lack of better terms, do you countrify it? Do you keep it more true to like the original recordings? How do you do that?
We kind of a little bit countrify it. I like to do good songs. Like I'll take Motown songs and I'll countrify some of them. And me being an 80s hair band junkie, I grew up in the 80s, you know. I was in high school in the 80s, so I was all about, you know, Warrant, Rat, Motley Crue was huge, you know, Poison. So that was my era. I used to sit and get in trouble drawing all the logos on the desk, you know. But so I take that growing up that way, and I put it in the country feel.
Okay.
It keeps the dance floor full. But they go, if I've got, say, 250 people in a show, and I can play one song that makes everybody happy out of every genre, they will come back to hear you. So if I do old country, new country, pop, even like old school rap, you know, The Weight by the band, you know, stuff like that, and I kind of put my own little mix to it. I found out that it's a recipe for success. It really helps.
How do you go about choosing the songs that aren't your own music that you're going to play?
I read the crowd.
Okay.
I will look at the crowd and see, is it a listening crowd? Is it a dancing crowd? Is it a younger crowd? Is it an older crowd? My mother taught me to do that a long time ago, to watch the people and see what the reactions are. And you can see everything from stage.
Of course.
Everything.
So are you choosing your set list for some of those things in the middle of the show? Are you calling audibles?
Most of my guys, it's off the hip.
Okay.
I will call out a song, and as you know, here in Nashville, most of the guys can pull off about anything. Guys and girls, they're very well-rounded individuals. So it's been my case over the years, if they've usually heard it, they can usually play it. And
we've had conversations in the past about like the repertoire on, say, Broadway.
Yeah.
If you were talking to a new artist that was trying to get into the Broadway scene, what advice do you have for them about like learning songs or how to play or how to act? Like, what would you say to them?
Stop at the first gas station when you get into Nashville, and if the person behind the counter sings better than you, go back home. No, I'm just kidding.
Sure.
I was told that many years ago.
Yeah.
Come in and eat at the Waffle House, and if the waitress that's waiting on you is singing, she's probably a songwriter and probably plays an instrument.
Sure.
The advice I can give to anybody on Broadway that's wanting to come to Nashville, I've got big dreams to go to Nashville. I've got big dreams to do this. Practice.
Okay.
Know your stuff.
Okay.
Know how to network and speak with people. And above all, when you come to Nashville, lose your attitude and be humble. Because if you're humble, you'll get in with that circle of family down there on Broadway, and then they'll mold you. They'll help mold you. They'll help you lead you in the right direction. You come in, act like a jerk, you'll get one gig, and they will boot you right out of town.
Okay.
Because it is a big family circle down there.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody, musician-wise. They know when new cats are coming in town. They knew when me as a new cat coming in town, and I actually knew a lot of the older players.
Okay.
But now I'm kind of like the dad, to a lot of the younger artists that's been there for a year or so. They found out my talent and what I do with all my charity stuff and everything. So I've kind of become the dad figure.
Okay.
Because I make sure that they get to their cars okay. I make sure that they're taken care of and make sure that, and I've just kind of they've adopted me into their part of their family.
Yeah.
But practicing the stuff, knowing your songs, if you're going to come to Nashville as an original artist, this is not the place for you.
Say that again.
Okay, so if you're coming to Nashville to do your original material, Broadway is not the place for you to come. If you're coming in to hone your skills, to learn cover tunes, to make you a better musician, then Broadway's the place for you.
Why is Broadway not the place for original music?
Down there, they want to hear the cover tunes. The people want to hear, they come to Nashville to hear good picking, good thing, but they want those songs that they're familiar with. Whether it's rock, whether it's country, whether it's rap, that's what they come to hear.
Sure.
Now, if you go over to the listening room and you get into those rooms to where they want the original stuff, they don't want the cover tunes. They want your original stuff. But my advice, if you're coming to Broadway, learn your cover tunes. There's a list of about 500 songs that you can download from YouTube. It says Nashville Broadway Standards. Learn 500 songs. And if you can do that, then you will fit in very well on Broadway. If you're just wanting to do your original stuff, don't go to Broadway.
I mean, and that's absolutely right. And I think here in just a moment we'll take a break. But before we do, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think a lot of people come to Nashville thinking I'm gonna go play at a street corner, and where do they go? They go Broadway and they play their original stuff, and there's thousands of people that are there.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, there's thousands of people. But that's not what they're there for on Broadway. Now, that being said, like you mentioned, there's the listening room. You can go to Bluebird if you can get in.
Bluebird, listening room.
The listening room, if you have original stuff, you can go to the East Room. You can go to Cobra. You can go to, there's a bunch of...
The local. There's tons of places
for original music.
That's designed for original music.
And that goes back to some of the discussions we've had, like on the podcast previously, of know where you need to be, nowhere's good for you, and find the place, find the audience that wants to hear what you want to play, they'll be receptive. If you're shouting all of your music out and doing an amazing job, but it's the wrong audience, they're not going to listen, right?
No, absolutely. And the good thing about it is I've played the listening room several times. I've played the East Room. I've actually done Bluebird.
Have you?
I had one show at Bluebird.
Nice.
What
is that like?
It. It's great, man. It's just so wonderful. I've done a solo show there, and it was just phenomenal.
How did you get in? Because so many people talk about how hard it is to get into Bluebird.
Through the Operation Encore. And then I became a judge for the Tennessee Hospitality.
Okay.
And I'm a judge now for the songwriter competitions that send people to the Bluebird.
Okay.
So I've got to do that over at the Gallatin at the Palace.
Yeah.
And Waynette Turner, that does a lot of stuff for the Huckabee show at TBN. She was a good hookup for all that, and I started doing that, and that's how I kind of got in. Because the people I was judging was competing to get a spot at the Bluebird.
Sure.
And I mean, they was 30 and 40 songwriters at a time competing for this. They had to go through 2 phases.
Okay.
So it's not an easy place to get in. Listening room's not an easy place to get in.
That's what I've heard.
So a lot of my stuff is Operation Encore Veterans Music Project helps me to get into some of those places.
Okay.
And then when you get in there, you start meeting the people and they get to where they know you. And then if you do a good job for them, then you get the invite back.
Absolutely.
If you don't do a good job, you don't get an invite back.
That is so important to leave a good impression on the people that you spend your time with. And it's a good note as far as networking too. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to hear more about your songwriting, your process, and I want to hear about Operation Encore and some of the other benefits and charities that you're a part of. So
love it.
All of that when we come back. Thank you once again for listening to Successfully Unsigned. I would like to take a moment during this break to remind you to visit our website at su-podcast.com to view all of the newest and latest content that we put out. Also, do us a huge favor and hit like and subscribe on this YouTube video, and like and rate us on your favorite streaming platform. Each one of those things helps us out tremendously. We would love to hear your thoughts on what artists we should have on next, what content we should cover, what kind of topics we should discuss, and any tips and tricks you might have in the music industry. Thank you for being one of our favorite listeners, and enjoy the rest of the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Successfully Unsigned.
Hi.
We are here in the beautiful MTSU Studio C, and we are here. We are here after a long sabbatical of edits and getting things out of the way.
Long day.
My horrible intros and re-intros. Mike, let's talk about songwriting.
Oh, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about songwriting. So you grew up, you were telling us earlier, you grew up playing cover tunes and playing on the road with your family and all that stuff. When did you start writing?
I never thought myself to be a writer.
Really?
Never.
Okay.
But I would have fun with songs, and I'd change words and, just make it funny. And I would do that on purpose to see if anybody in the audience would catch the change.
Okay.
And make it funny.
Yeah,
well, I never thought myself a writer.
Okay.
Well, after I got retired from the military, and after all my injuries and rehab and rehabbing learning how to walk again and trying to get used to being blind on the right-hand side and everything, I went to Camp Southern Ground with Zach Brown.
Okay.
It's called the Warrior Wellbeing Program.
Okay.
And this is just recently. This was 3 years ago.
Okay.
And down there, they teach you about your self-strengths, like the brain enneagram stuff, and like what kind of person you are and what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are.
So what's your Enneagram? Do you remember?
I actually do. I'm a helper.
Okay.
I'm a wooer.
Is that a 2?
2, yeah. So I had a list of about 6 of them that I scored really high in.
Yeah.
I had to do the Clifton Strengths test online before I went down there.
Yep.
And they put us in the groups with, they purposely made the groups different people.
Sure.
Because they wanted not the same kind of personalities together, but they wanted different personalities together.
Sure, yeah.
So we done classes. We've done it 7 days.
Okay.
Every day in class, and it was very structured. And we learned about each other. We learned what our strengths was. We learned things. And kind of toward the end, they have a songwriting session.
Okay.
So what it does is it allows the veterans, which we're all veterans down there.
Sure.
It allows the veterans to take their emotions and sit down with songwriters that have Grammys.
Okay.
And you write songs together as your group over what your trials and tribulations in the military was, and what your, anything you want to get out, to get those emotions out and everything. So we done that, and I was with Jake Dukes, his group, which is, he does a lot of administrative stuff for Zach, and he helps run the Camp Southern Ground down there. And we wrote a song called Better Days, which was my first release.
Okay.
And it was all about just putting my emotions on paper. Well, it's funny. We wrote it in the bathroom of Camp Southern Ground because when we was playing it had the best reverb.
Sure.
And it sounded the best. And then we went in there and we all practiced it, and then we came back out and we played it for the group.
Okay.
And I actually have a video of me playing my first written song to Zach, to, No Pressure. Guy Fieri was there. We had all these people. Zach's personal chef was there. Jake, everybody was down there for a little thing called Farm to Table. So everybody and their brother was down there. So, I've done 280, 300 shows a year, and I think that was the most nervous I've ever been. You got Zach going, how you doing? But after that, I just kind of started letting go, and I was like, man, I can write songs. This is pretty easy. Okay. And of course we learned about musical hooks, and I knew about all of this. I just never was really interested in writing. And I started writing, and they invited me back down after I graduated and become an alumni member. They invited me back down then to be one of the celebrity songwriters that worked with the veterans. Which I volunteered my time and went down, and it just kind of built from there. And next thing I know, I've got 16, 17, 18 songs. There you go. I've probably got 24, 25 songs now that I'll sit down in 30 minutes, we'll bang it out. Kind of like working with Schaefer at Joe, but found out that I'm actually pretty good at it.
So out of all those songs that you've written, how many have you released?
Altogether, 9 songs.
9 songs released. Okay.
And then my newest release just released this past Friday at midnight.
Okay. And that is?
That is Take Me to Tennessee.
Take Me to Tennessee.
My first release, I'd done everything myself and released it. It was called Better Days. Then I wrote a song, and I started collaborating with other songwriters. Other veteran songwriters. And then I got picked up by Operation Encore Veterans Music Project. Okay. So that was, we're all veterans. So we went back down to Camp Southern Ground for a program called Warrior Song. Okay. To where we went down, and all we done was songwrite. We would we learned how to, we had voice classes. We had the voice classes with this young lady named Mama Jan. She was, I think, 57, 58 years old. And she was Justin Bieber's vocal coach.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So we're sitting there going, this woman is a drill instructor. We started using the singing straws to do warm-ups and cool downs, and she taught us how to use our vocal cords a little bit more sufficient and not strain them so much to where you could sing more without getting the growl and everything. So, and then we sat down with Doug Johnson and some of the guys from Black River Entertainment here in Nashville. It does Kelsey Ballerini and Scotty Hastings. Well, Scotty Hastings is also an Operation Encore veteran. So he just recently got signed with them.
You talk about Operation Encore, you talk about Warrior Song. What are those?
So Warrior Song is just, it's where all of us veterans, Operation Encore guys got together at Camp Southern Ground. We got with the with Miss Jen, which is the head psychologist down there. And we dove in even deeper on how to use those emotions and how to form musical hooks and how to do the lyrical hooks. And we really dove into it and started surgically showing us how to. We sat down there with veteran songwriters that wrote stuff for Tim McGraw, wrote stuff for Garth Brooks, wrote stuff for everybody that has made it big in the industry. And they started sitting down with us and showing us, hey, well, if you do this right here, you'll understand it better.
So after all of that, what does your process of songwriting look like when you're doing stuff on your own? And what does that look like when you're collabing with people? How different is that workflow?
When I do it on my own, it's like I'll be sitting just like practicing on my guitar, just strumming.
Sure.
And I'll get with me, now I know some of my other cohorts, they do it a little bit different, but with me, I hear a musical hook first.
Okay.
And then I'll sit down and say, that's a pretty cool beat right there.
Now, are you talking about, when you talk about musical hook, are you talking about a vocal melody line, or are you talking about a guitar melody?
Guitar melody line. And I'll go off that guitar melody line and I'll think, well, what if I done this verse like this? What if I done the chorus like this? What if I done a pre-chorus like this, And I'll start chopping it out in blocks. And then I'll sit down and I'll actually record what I've played and kind of know where I'm going with it. And then I'll go, well, what's bothering me today?
Okay.
And I'll say, well, this is kind of like what I read this morning, or this is kind of what I'm going through today. And I'll just start writing how my feelings are. If I'm having a depressive day, it's pretty much probably going to be a slower song.
Sure.
If I'm having a happy day, it's probably going to be a rockin' killer type kind of song,
Sure.
So it kind of goes off the mood.
Okay.
But I've had days that I couldn't write if my life depended on it. And then I've had days that I'll wake up at 2:00 in the morning and thank God there's a pad and pencil sitting there because I dreamed about something and I write it down.
Yeah.
Or we'll be riding along in a car. Take me to Tennessee, for instance. It was a dare. I called my wife from the studio during lunch.
Yeah.
And she says, well, since you've brought me to Tennessee and you moved me up here, I need a song about it. I don't think you can write one. 30 minutes later, me and Schaefer sat down, wrote Take Me Tennessee, and we started recording it.
Yeah, I remember that day.
And I think we actually recorded it within that hour of end of class.
Second half of the day, y'all sat down and recorded that. And now tell everybody, who is Schaefer?
So Schaefer Mueller is one of our Operation Encore vets. He's from Alaska. I think he's up next to Homer. I'm not exactly sure. But he is a great writer. He writes songs in his sleep, I think. I mean, he'll be sitting in class and he'd have a song wrote and still paying attention to the screen. He's just wired like that,
Now, where did you meet him?
I actually met him up at Joe West at the Apprenticeship Academy, the school we was going to up there. Same place I met you. And I had met Schaefer at Camp Southern Ground before that.
Had you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had all went down there. So we kind of knew each other beforehand. Sure. Yeah.
So you talk about Camp Southern Ground and some of these other things. You're a veteran, which you mentioned earlier. What other... How does that play into your music, and how does that play into some of the organizations that you're with?
Well, it plays in my music because a lot of my songs are written off of trials and tribulations of what veterans go through.
Okay. How so?
Well, like combat veterans. As a combat vet myself, as a wounded combat vet myself, we went through a lot of stuff over in the sandbox and overseas and through the military for as many years as I was in, and trials and tribulations of all that. People don't understand kind of what veterans go through.
Okay.
Other veterans do understand what veterans go through.
Sure.
So I think that gives us a little bit better insight on how to write and how to understand and try to get what another veteran is wanting to put on paper, but he can't. So we do it for them.
Okay.
And how that plays in is, as you know, I'm the director for Wish for Our Heroes Foundation.
Yes, and let's talk about that some more here in a moment as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll incorporate that to my writing, and I use that as a basis to get back to the veterans, because they'll listen to their song. Like if I go down Camp Southern Ground and we write a song with them, they get to take that song home with them.
Sure.
And they say, wow, I got my emotions on paper. So if I can do my emotions like this, then that's going to help me in my mental capacity and maybe keep me from being depressed. When I do get depressed, I write my own songs.
Sure.
So I can do it just like we done this.
Sure.
And it's therapeutic. It really is.
Yeah. So on this podcast, we talk a lot about audiences, and we kind of briefly touched on that earlier. So yourself as an artist, you look at that and you do a lot of songs, as you mentioned, writing how veterans, especially combat vets, experience and feel things and what you go through. So it seemed to me that's one audience of yours, correct? Is that your only audience? If not, how do you find your audience?
Well, a lot of my audience comes from the charities that I am involved in. And, some of these, with Wish for Our Heroes, it's a national charity. So it covers most of the United States.
How did you get involved with Wish for Our Heroes? And
I got asked to come out and do a show. I was traveling with Artemis Pyle. Artemis and David Fowler, which is my producer, and Kent Wells, which plays for Dolly Parton and does all of her production and everything. David said, I want you to come to San Antonio and I want you to play for Wish for Our Heroes Foundation. So me and my wife, we flew out there. I was just doing a solo show. I was opening for Artemis. Which, to get to open for the last living member of Leonard Skinner is like, is the best. So we go into this gala at Pedrati's Ranch out in San Antonio, and there's like 5,000 people there.
Man, it's a lot.
And they're all there to support Wish for Our Heroes. They're all sponsors, families.
Of course.
Matt Bonner, a lot of the San Antonio Spurs was there. They was actors there. Dave Bautista that plays Guardians of the Galaxy is part of our Wish for Our Heroes Foundation out there. They're all very supportive. So I got set up, and Dave, he introduced me to all the directors and the board and everything, and they really liked what I was doing, because at the time I was running a program in Paris Island that was a music program where I would donate guitars and teach music lessons. And they heard what I was doing, and they thought it was just a great thing. So over the next couple of years, I started helping out, started volunteering, and then started playing more music and getting my name out there a lot more and traveling more. And they found out that I was doing well and was moving to Nashville. And they approached me, the directors and the board did, and they said, we would like for you and your wife to take over our Tennessee chapter, because we don't have one there.
So,
and cover Nashville and the entire state of Tennessee.
So what are you now with them?
So I am the director of the Nashville Chapter Wish for Our Heroes Foundation. My wife is the secondary director, which she handles all the finances and verification of the wishes. And then we go out as a board, which we have 3 people on our board here, plus our national directors are also on our board. And then we partnered with Goose Flights. That is Tony Saragusa that played linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens. He passed away suddenly, and his daughter carried on his business. So we've partnered with Sammy through Goose Flights, which gives they fly the celebrities around. They have a private Learjet company, and anytime we need any kind of a medical emergency flights or anything, she donates that for completely free.
It's wonderful.
So we have ways to get people flown around the United States that has emergencies or families moved quick. She can have that set up within less than 6 hours.
Wow.
Just real quick. So with our board, what happens is you go on the website, you can go to wishforourheroes.org, and we deal with active duty members.
Active duty, okay.
Yep. We are stepping into the veterans and the first responders, but here in Nashville, we're getting our active duty 501c3s and everything set up to where we just kind of deal with active duty members until next year, and then we'll deal with veterans and then first responders. So what we do is somebody will go on the website and they'll put somebody in for a wish. An active duty. So that's anybody that's struggling, having a hard time, medical emergencies. Their house burnt down, their car's broke down, they don't have another car, but they're active duty. Because as you know, E5 and below, they don't make a lot of money. It's not a lot. And we don't want to see them having to go borrow money or go to one of these cash places or something that just gets them into more trouble. So they'll put their name in for a wish. My wife will sit down, Tanya will sit down, and she'll verify everything, verify their status, get with their command. Then we have a military liaison, Cal, Westenberg that goes out and he does the liaison for the military. And then we sit down as a board and we say, okay, so I'm going to give you for instance, our first wish we granted was for a young sergeant, and I won't go into names or anything, but it was for a young sergeant at Fort Campbell. Her son was born with a cranial deficiency, so it had a flat spot on their head. So in order to fix that, you have to wear these cranial helmets.
Okay.
Military insurance doesn't cover that because it's considered cosmetic. They're $2,500 a piece. Well, somebody put her in for a wish. We verified, got with her command, got with her gunnery sergeants, and got with her upper echelon and talked to them. And we got with the cranial company here in Nashville, got them for $1,600 a piece, purchased them, and presented them to her for Christmas. All she had to do was take her son in and have him fitted, and it's completely paid for.
That's wonderful.
So that's the kind of stuff that we do, you know. As an E3 or an E4, she couldn't afford that. There's no way. She's a single parent. There's no way she could afford that. And that would have made her son have to grow up with a flat spot on their head.
Sure.
So that's the kind of stuff we do. We're just getting ready to send a couple from Mount Juliet that's a dual active duty couple. Their son was born blind, so he's going to the Tennessee School for the Deaf. We're sending them to a seminar in Chicago to learn how to work with their child.
Wonderful.
So that's the kind of stuff we do.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, nationwide, since 2009, we've granted $25 million in wishes. We've bought cars, we've bought homes, but everything's verified.
Sure.
It can't just go to a member that gets out and gets drunk and blows their money. You know, it has to be a verified, honest emergency.
Sure.
So there's a lot of legwork involved in doing all that, but the giving back and paying it forward to people that are struggling is what we do. And we are a 99% volunteer basis. Nobody gets paid. We have one person in the entire national district that gets paid, and that's our secretary that takes care of the CPA and the writing of the checks.
Sure.
Period. So we're 99% all volunteer. We're all retired officers, retired petty officers, retired chiefs, retired first sergeants. So we have Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines.
Okay.
Each one deals with their particular area. So we cover Indianapolis 500. We work at the Pagoda up at Indy every May. We do San Antonio. We do North Florida. We do Kentucky. We do Milwaukee. We're in with the Milwaukee Bucks, so we go up and like Giannis and George Hill and all, everybody. We work with them. But now we have a Tennessee chapter. So
here a couple weeks ago, you were telling me about going up to Milwaukee and all that. What was that show like? What was that event like?
It was phenomenal. Yeah. We done it at the Grain Exchange.
Grain Exchange. Okay.
So the Grain Exchange is probably the oldest building in Milwaukee.
Okay.
The columns are 50 foot high. It looks like you're walking into apartheid and overseas. The
pictures you showed me were like, wow.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. And what was that show for? Like, what was that event?
So that was the fundraiser we do in Milwaukee for Wish for Our Heroes. Okay. So we have live auctions. Okay. We have a lot of the Milwaukee Bucks was there, so people could come in. Sponsors would come in, and they got to meet all the, meet people that they normally could not get to meet. We have them at our galas.
So you mentioned earlier that working with these organizations is a big part of your networking. How important is it to find a community of some kind, whether it's that for you or something for someone else, and talk about like networking, what that's like for you?
It's extremely difficult.
It's extremely difficult.
You spend a lot of time on phones. You spend a lot of time meeting people. You spend a lot of time talking to people. And then you just find that right circle of people that is willing, they love to help. And then it becomes a little easier.
Okay.
With Milwaukee, we got in with the Milwaukee Bucks, and they are huge supporters of Wish for Our Hero Foundation. So we get to go to their games. We get to do stuff like that for our perks. But at the same time, it brings in a lot of the sponsors which have the deep pockets that want to help. And then they know that we're above board and we're on the level, and everything for us is transparent.
So what about as an artist? How different is that as an artist to do those things?
as an artist, being part of the committee and part of the fundraisers, you kind of got to separate yourself. But with me, I didn't. I sat down and I spoke with the director of our national director, and I said, I'm director in Nashville. I want to connect my artistry with Wish for Our Heroes.
Okay.
Me being a veteran, that rings huge.
Sure.
Also, everything that is sold online for my albums or anything, 10% of that goes to Wish for Our Heroes Foundation. So I'm giving back that way also.
Sure.
But that gives them, that gives me a platform to where I can get my music out. But it also gives me a platform to where I can pay it back to be able to donate back to the Wish for Our Heroes Foundation. So
that's wonderful. That's really wonderful.
So
we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back with some more.
Awesome.
Thank you for watching this clip of Successfully Unsigned. If you want to see more content like this in the future, please hit that like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to find us on social media platforms at successfully_unsigned or on our website at su-podcast.com. Welcome back to the third segment here of Successfully Unsigned with Mike Ponder. And wow, that break was we talked about a lot. We got a lot deeper in that break than really we have even in the last two segments. And I don't know, maybe we'll make a special audio edit of that because I think the audio was rolling. And I think there was a lot there that was really, I think there was a lot there that was really important for young artists to hear, and a lot of solid just life advice too.
It's hard being a young artist because they're raised they hear everything on the radio, they watch TV. Now you have The Voice, the American Idol. As an artist signed now, I tried out 12 times for The Voice.
12 times, really?
Got denied every time. I tried out for American Idol, got told I was too old. I got told that I would never get signed in Nashville as a 50-year-old. Proved them wrong.
Yeah. Has that gotten easier with age, do you think, or has it gotten harder? Not American Idol and all that, but
I think entertaining people has gotten easier with age.
Is it with age or with experience?
I think it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
I think with age, you get the experience. The older you get, and if you do it a lot, you learn how to work your crowds. You learn how to talk to people. But I think with the age, you just get to where you don't really care what people think about you anymore.
Okay.
You kind of sit that to the side and go, you know what? I've been doing this long enough.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do. If you like it, you don't like it. You don't have to be here. It was choice for you to come, and you just get to where it doesn't stress you out as bad. As a new young artist, you want people there.
Right.
You want people caring about your stuff. And I've found if you get to that point of where you just don't care what people think anymore, and you just do what you're doing and you stay, you do you, it gets easier. You lose the stress, you lose everything. And I think it makes the show better. I think,
you think so?
I think it allows me to entertain better because, you just get to where I don't, it's not saying I don't care, but I'm going to do my show. You either like it or you don't like it.
Yeah.
And that's with people around the world. They either like it, they don't like it. They'll let you know. They will let you know.
And that goes to what we were just talking about with your phrase, I think. What was it? Do good, feel good, repeat.
Do good, feel good, and repeat. And if you just keep trucking along, good things will happen to you. But I would not want to go back being a young artist again. I would do things a little bit different, I think.
Like what?
Well, I think that I would have been more prepared. I would have been more prepared in the fact of knowing more music, practicing more, instead of using, I've got to do this as an excuse. Even if I just sit down 10 minutes a day. I mean, we spend how long on our phones now? Lay your phone down, get on your guitar, and spend half the time that you would on the phone practicing your guitar or practicing your instrument and learn your craft. If you learn your craft, it makes you more marketable. It makes you to where you'll start learning different things. And when it becomes easier, it becomes more fun. When, like, with me, I can sit down. If I start playing guitar and I know the songs, whether I don't know the songs, once you learn, you start getting that. You know where to go. You understand it. And then playing the songs becomes fun instead of, oh my God, I'm going to miss that chord. Oh, I missed it again.
And there's nothing worse than sitting there with people who know the music and attempting to play and not being able to do what you think you should. I was so scared to death first time I was sitting in the studio with Kent Wells, him being Dolly's lead guitarist. He's played for everybody, and he's just a monster guitarist. And I'm sitting there, I didn't even want to tell him I was a guitarist. and then he comes up to me afterwards and said, man, you got some great chops. And I was like, did he just say that to me? And I've heard it from several people. Sure.
Greg Kosh.
Okay.
I was just with him the other night over at City Winery, and he's a beast of a guitarist.
Okay.
Absolutely beast. And same thing. Just keep chugging along, learn your craft, practice. Find your weaknesses and work on them.
Yeah. I mean, and that's true.
And nowadays, when I was learning, I was having to use an 8-track and a record. So you had to set it back and you had to figure out where's that guitar part going?
Yeah.
What's the drums doing?
Yeah.
Nowadays you just log it in on YouTube and somebody will show you how to play it.
It reminds me a lot of the story I heard about Tommy Emmanuel when he first started playing.
Like
hearing there's all these different parts, and then I think his story is where he says he thought it was all one guitar player playing all these parts on this record, so he tried to figure out how to play all of those parts as one person, and that led to who he is and how he plays.
Stressful. And you start adding in all those tracks and you're trying to copy it. A mentor of Tommy Emmanuel's just went to Milwaukee with me, Parker Hastings.
Okay.
Phenomenal kid. He's like 23 years old, and he plays. His mentor is Tommy Emmanuel.
Nice.
So he travels and he plays some with Tommy. He plays with Richard Smith, which is another beast on the Opry and travels. And they do the old Chet Atkins style.
Sure.
And Parker says, I just watched Tommy and went to some of his seminars and he taught me. I was like, well, these guys invented this style. Classical gas, Tommy wrote.
Yeah.
So these were the original OGs,
That's got to be something to sit in those rooms.
I actually got to record Tommy and Richard Smith warming up backstage on a video, and I sat there and I was like, hey, man, do you play guitar? Nope.
I ain't touching one around y'all, no.
Sure don't. But I've had big-time guitarists that I've sat in and played with go, man, you're a great guitarist. And I just say, thank you, but I'm not near as good as you are.
But all that took practice to get there, though.
Oh, yeah. Hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
And doing so many shows a year. In 2021, I done over 300 shows in a year. So it was Monday through Sunday. Sometimes 2 shows a day. And you start building up very tough chops. You start doing it. With me, though, it's like, I'll play that lick and I'll be like, man, that rocked. How did I do that? So it's kind of like living out of the box a little bit.
Yeah. But all those shows weren't in Nashville, though, were they? They were.
No, there's all of them down the East Coast.
East Coast.
I've done the East Coast tour. I'd played everywhere from Orlando, Florida to Portland, Maine. Played up in Jackman, Maine, played Nova Scotia, played in Canada, New York, Boston. I traveled for many, many years. After I retired out of the military, I traveled. And then this past year, before I moved to Nashville, I was playing Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Virginia Beach, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So I kind of kept it in the lower southeastern district. But it was you would play a show, get in the van, travel for 4 or 5 hours, sleep, get up, do another show, travel, get up, and it's all good, and you're playing your cover songs, but it just wasn't fulfilling what I wanted to do.
Sure.
I wanted to learn more about sound engineering. I wanted to learn more about the music production side of the house. And then if I do that, then I can start doing more of what I want to do is with the writing and the artistry. And doing the sound engineering and music production actually made me a better player.
I was going to ask about that. How do you think that's changed what you do and how you do things? Like, how much has that helped learning?
Tremendously. Tremendously. It actually helps me set my live sound better.
Yeah.
You know, I was fumbling through doing live sound for years with analog boards, digital boards, but even going through that, it taught me how to get a better sound, how to set things better, how to recognize frequencies, and you know, you was a huge help when we was going through school, and I very appreciative of your tutelage. I'm going to use that $26 word. Your tutelage, the ghost in the room, and Joe West was a huge. Yeah, you know, Ron and just Ron Petroff. I'm saying it right, Petroff. Ron and just our fellow students. Yeah. You know, we learned that we're all on different levels, but even the one at the basic level can teach you something you may not know. Yeah. And I've tried to apply that now to doing the music production and doing some mastering for people and playing as an artist. I set my guitar differently now. Now that I understand. I learned more about compression. Okay. You know, so now I set my guitar a little bit different to where it comes out with cleaner notes. And
you're talking about like electric guitar, like pedals and stuff?
It's not in the mud. You know, I learned learning that, well, that was skills that I practice now. Right. You know, and I never had those before.
Yeah, and like you said, that's opened doors to other
it's open doors to work. It's opened door to mastering. It's opened the door to doing studio stuff. And it taught me the difference between being a road musician and a session musician, which I was already stepping into that, working with Kent and David and Dave Fowler and all those guys. But it taught me that if you're going to be a session player, you really got to change the way you think about things.
Yeah, because like I've mixed, you know, for live stuff for a while now, and I've done some studio stuff as well for a good little bit, and you get a feel for the part writing is different. How you approach, like, you know, is this going to be a more busy fill? This is more simple fill. How does this fit with the rest of the music? Because it's no longer just like in that moment, once it's played, it's gone. It's now cemented forever. You're composing. You're writing parts, even if you're not the artist or the songwriter.
You are writing the parts, and
you have to be on. You have to be spot on.
You got to learn to count the four a little bit better. Yeah. And equally spaced increments. Yeah. You know, you got to, especially drumming and guitar playing, you have to, you got to be more fluent with your chord changes, you know, because tape picks up everything.
It does. It doesn't forget.
Digital signal does not. No, it's definitely not forgivable. It's funny you mentioned that. My fiddle, one of my fiddle players that I use in the studio, she played on "Take Me to Tennessee," and I purposely kept one of her squeaks because I thought it was just at the most comical and just the most awkward time, but it really fit the song.
It brings humanity to it, though, doesn't it?
It brought humanity to it. And she looked at me, she said, "Why did you keep that?" And I was like, "Listen to it. It sounds great." But it's really helped me to approach things on a different mindset.
Well, you know, I've been thinking or listening a lot to an artist named Melody Gardot, which I know I've talked about a lot, and spent almost this whole last year listening to one of her more recent releases.
I think you mentioned her.
I'm sure I have. Yeah. Fantastic artist, and the stuff is beautifully engineered. It's probably my favorite record as far as like engineering is concerned. But I was listening to some stuff, listening to it again here these last couple of weeks, and I noticed something I never really paid attention to, and I thought I'd listened to it quite a bit. Just the breathing that is happening, because there's some strings, right? There's a viola and some violins and stuff in this kind of jazzy kind of thing, and I'd heard it, but it didn't register that that's just people. Yeah, because those violins were just so intimate, but it brought humanity, and it brought texture, and it brought just like this sense of, well, again, intimacy to that recording that just kind of worked. Yeah, you know.
Well, it's funny. The "Take Me to Tennessee," I recorded the vocals in a tile bathroom.
Yeah. You were telling me. Explain some more about that. Yeah.
So, you know, as Joe and you and Ron all taught us about using natural reverbs.
Yeah, it's great.
Instead of adding the fairy dust on there, where you can add reverbs to anything, you know. But if you look at some of those reverb apps and stuff, you look and the first thing it does is it comes up with a square, and it asks you where you want to set the microphone in the room. Well, why not just use the room?
Yeah.
So I got to where that vocal, I set it up in a tiled bathroom, set it in I measured it and set it exactly in the middle of the bathroom.
Okay.
And I had it to where the reverbs just was gorgeous. So on Take Me to Tennessee, there's 0 effects digitally wise. It is literally all effects.
Talking about on the vocal
in the vocal.
On the vocal, yeah.
That is the most dry vocal you ever seen. There's no effects on it, and all it was just the natural ambience of the reverb of the bathroom itself.
Which is a cool thing that like so many people I think don't take advantage of is use your room. You know, we get so concerned about, you know, this has got to be a dry, clean recording. You know, people record in the closet, like they'll open the closet with all like the clothes and stuff. And that's great if that's what you're looking for. But like, you know, if you got a hallway, put a mic down the end of the hallway and see what happens.
Where is the, in your house, like we sit in a studio and we have all these pads and
of course
we have everything padded down, it's tuned in. If you've ever been into a walk-in closet in a house that's full of clothes, it's just as quiet.
It's dead.
It's dead. So there's a lot of things that the new artists can do. Learn Logic, learn Ableton Live, learn stuff. You can learn that by just trial and error. But just think about what you have in front of you.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it is if you do say use like your bathroom to record vocals or use the space, that's something nobody can copy. No. Because nobody has your bathroom. Nobody has your house. It's never going to sound the same. And you know, it's just a really cool thing. And side note, if you listen really closely to a lot of reverb plugins, you'll hear pitch modulation at the end, which is good or bad depending on how you want to do it.
And you're in a room, you don't have that.
You don't, because it's just
pure
the sound.
reverb.
It's just the sound. Thank you for kind of going into some of that. But we got show and yell.
Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah.
I thought it was a myth.
It's not.
I thought it was a myth.
It's not.
You got to show me how this works.
You know,
show me how this works, man. I'm interested.
Well, I don't have an item with me today. I don't. But if I did, you know, I always use a piece of clothing. So, T-shirt. You know, you gotta. And here, like you can see it. I'm showing you.
It's like you're taking it back to the '80s, man. The tie-dyed, man.
You know,
I like it.
The first time I walked down.
So's the mullet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I will never see the mullet ever again. And I'm not taking my hat off to show you why. And I had one. I had one in the 80s.
I believe that. I got to see some pictures when we're done here.
It was nuts.
You know, the first time I walked downstairs with this T-shirt, my mom was like, "Did you drop that in some bleach?" And I think she was being serious about it too.
It's kind of like you see the shirt I have on. So we had this like patriotic thing at Second Fiddle. So they said you need to wear something patriotic. Well, I always wear my Marine Corps hat because I'm always representing my Marines. I'm always representing my Navy guys, my brothers and sisters in the military. I'm a big advocate of active duty. So I said, you know what? I've got this hanging in the closet. I bought it for a gala that we had. My wife got it for me down in San Antonio. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to wear it. I had so many people going, man, I love your shirt.
Nice.
Where'd you get that? So it's like, well, it's just, you know, it's the Constitution.
Gift shop.
We're free to make recordings in the United States for a reason, you know? So it's just the little things, man. It's the little thing that counts. Well, I've got a show and yell.
You do. You got a show and yell.
So I'm going to reach around here and grab this. So I'm going to say, I'm not going to advertise what kind of guitar it is, but I'm just going to say guitar. You know, I'm going to scream it out. This is how I do my screaming. This guitar is very special to me. I've written all my songs on it. But it's got many signatures. It's starting to get wore out and holes, and it's been refretted 3 times.
3 times.
3 times.
How long have you had it?
I've had this, I don't know, probably 15 years. One of the first 200 series Taylors when Taylor started making guitars came out, and I've had different people sign it. I mean, Joe signed it.
Oh, nice.
But, some of our veterans signed it. Zach Brown signed it. We'll just say Mike from Counting Cars from the Discovery Channel. He's a good friend. I've done shows with him. Artemis, Otts Kilter Jules signed it. Dolly Parton signed it. Eli Young Band. Absolutely.
Is that Eli Young as well?
That's Eli Young Band.
Yeah, nice.
All the guys signed it for me. Scott Gibson, who plays Ack on Band of Brothers.
Okay.
He's a good friend. He's from Canada. He comes to all of our Wish for Our Heroes Foundation stuff. Daryl Worley. There's tons and tons of people that's blessed, and this is people that I've done shows with or done stuff with, and that's kind of why it's real special. But I started writing on this guitar, and this guitar was I went through a lot in life. I'm gonna go ahead and just put this on. I went through a lot in life, and this guitar helped me get through it, from depression to very bad divorce, child custody battles, and it was just, this is how I made it through my depressive state. And it's not something I'd ever get rid of. It'll be given to my youngest son when I pass away. And but this is how I get my emotions out to my fans. And it's been my biggest advocate for happiness, for sadness, for depression. And this is my therapy, and this is how I sometimes us men have a hard time really getting our emotions out. So this helps me get my emotions out, whether it be funny, whether it be depressed, whether it be sadness, happiness, and then this is how I entertain. I figure there's a frequency for everybody's happiness.
That's a good quote. There's a frequency for everybody's happiness.
And it truly is. There's frequencies out there that makes you cringe. There's frequency out there that we hear that it squeals in your ears. But there's frequencies out there that are soothing. There's frequencies out there that are, as you taught us, as Joe and you and everybody we worked with in sound engineering, that there's a good frequency for everything. And I think we're just going to write a new song about that, because
good frequency for everything.
Good frequency for everything. We're working on a song right now that's called "Right in the Wrong Direction."
Okay.
And I think it's going to turn out to be pretty cool. But it's this is how I got through a lot of bad times. So my shout out is my guitar. Never named it.
Never named it. That's going to be one of my questions.
I wish that
Lucille.
I wish that I had named her, but I just really haven't.
It's never too late.
I don't think I've really found the right name yet. But when I do, you'll be the first to know.
Well, thank you.
I promise you that.
Thank you.
You'll be the first to know. But she's got me through a lot of hard times and a lot of lonely, depressive nights. And
she sounds beautiful too.
I'm just glad
it's a great
that I have
sounding
her.
guitar.
And don't get me wrong, I'm blessed with some very fine guitars. When my wife now, Tanya, first got together, she bought me a guitar for my birthday. It's the first time anybody had ever bought me a guitar.
Really?
For my birthday. And I said, you know what? This is the woman for me right here.
Go find you a
everybody
lady
else says, you got to take those guitars and you need to put them away. And my wife says, just put a hook up and hang it right there. What else you need? That's love. And I still play that guitar on stage today. It's a Brad Paisley signature Telecaster.
Nice.
And it's been refretted a couple of times, and it's wore out, and the bridge on it is actually, I've wore it down so much with my hand and sweat and everything. But guitars are just like, me as an artist. They get old, they wear out. You put new frets, you put new strings, you keep them going, they sound good. one of these days, I'm hoping that what I do on this old guitar will touch somebody and maybe they're having a bad day and it'll make them feel better. So,
yeah,
this is what I do.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thank you for being on the podcast. If y'all want to hear this guitar, check out the live video. It's coming out very soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mike, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Brother, thank you. I was glad I could do it.
Is there anything that you want to shout out? Any places, any social media, websites, stuff like that?
Please follow me on MikePondermusic.com. And also you can find us at wishforourheroes.org. So you can check us out either place there. Like it and follow it. If you go on to Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and I'm sure they'll put links up and everything, just remember there's a percentage of all sales. You can go on MikePondermusic.com and buy merch and everything. All sales, a percentage of it goes to Wish for Our Heroes Foundation.
Very nice.
So it's all coming back to make sure that we're taking care of our active duty members and veterans and first responders. So
that's a wonderful thing. Again, everybody go check out the website. All the links will be in the description below. And as always, we are Successfully Unsigned. If you want to hear more content like this, more interviews with wonderful artists, then make sure that you like and subscribe right down there below. Again, Successfully Unsigned. You can also check out our website at su-podcast.com. Thanks.